To Tari and Pam, and I explained they're each going to get an opening statement, so we will go ahead and Pam, you want to start with your opening statement? Okay, there's the microphone for you. Have a mic.
Right now, she might end up in Tunbridge tomorrow, rehabilitated. I didn't know about it.
Your mic's not on.
They said hold it under your chin.
Like a cigar.
Okay.
Good evening. I want to thank the Patriots for holding this event and thank you all for coming. Most of you already know me, so I'm going to skip the biography. People have asked me why I'm going to run for county executive. Truth is, I'm uniquely qualified for this position. And additionally, I'm homesick. I want to come back and work for Cecil County. I have both extensive financial and legislative experience. I'm a lifelong resident. I understand the people of this county. My 20+ years of government service and 3 terms as treasurer have given me a thorough understanding of how our county works. I've managed a large staff. My background as an accountant makes me understand our budget and how the dollars work and how we determine the true cost of things. I'm able to eliminate the fluff and make the tough decisions that affect all of our lives. To successfully manage this county, we need to learn to work together. We must learn to build consensus, or we will never solve the issues that approach us. I believe I can provide the leadership necessary to develop teamwork. I've proven that I can work with the towns and other state and county agencies. I'm an independent thinker, and I have no partisan bias. I have consistently worked to save the county money and will always look out for the best interest of the taxpayers. The bottom line is this: I am the most qualified in Cecil County with over 50 years of continuous residence, 12 years of elected service, and 20 years of providing service to our county. I love this place. I was born here. I've lived my entire life here, and I plan to die here. I want it to be a great place for me and you, our children, and our grandchildren. Please allow me to guide Cecil County through the road of our first years of charter. Let's get it right the first time. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for being here, too. This is truly one of the most important elections of our lifetime. In Cecil County, for the very first time, we're electing a county executive. The new charter, interestingly enough, only requires that the executive be a U.S. citizen, has been a resident and registered voter of the county for 2 years. That's it. But clearly, the job of the executive is far more than that. The executive provides executive direction to all departments and offices of county government. They develop and oversee policies, regulations, create plans, programs, and budgets, and they propose legislation to the county council. They appoint people to boards, committees, and commissions, and with a team of citizens and stakeholders, will decide what the future of Cecil County looks like through their strategic plan. But most importantly, it's a position that represents you. The executive is both the person that you can approach in the grocery store and say, hey Terry, I have a problem and I need your help. It's also your face to the governor or to a congressman, and it's a key person who's going to stand up for our rights in Annapolis against the burden of more regulation and regulations and restrictions. Your executive should have experience and be equally comfortable doing all those things. I'm fortunate that I've had the privilege of representing you as a county commissioner the past 2 years with the responsibility of most of these things already. Before I was elected, I served as the executive director of the Cecil County Chamber of Commerce, where I led a wonderful team representing our business community. I was responsible for the creation and the execution of the Chamber's budget, where I scrutinized every purchase and sometimes had to drastically cut expenditures. And I had to think outside the box to develop programs that created not only critical revenue for the Chamber, but also increased the value to the members. In my life before moving to Cecil County, I worked as a county legislative analyst, representing our county at the state capitol, testifying on legislation. I worked with both state and federal levels on transportation and capital projects, including being the Olympic planner for the 2002 Olympic Winter Games. Prior to that, I've spent many years in accounting in the minute details of not only county government, but also the school system, which, as you know, comprises the largest part of our budget now. As you're listening tonight, I ask you to keep your expectations high. You deserve an excellent county executive to represent you. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to start on bring this time, and Mario's keeping time, so if anybody goes over, just, you know, don't throw anything, but maybe just kind of put your hand up, because I'd like to get all the way around the room this time, okay? All right, thanks. Is anybody? Mario.
have a reputation. Mary again, Jimmy, 1 Woodbine Circle. My question's for you, Pam. And I was not at the Glen Farms, which is where I live, because I was actually on vacation finally. But one of the feedback I got was you mentioned cutting personal property tax.
Yes.
And one, how much of a revenue would that be, and how are you going to replace that?
Right now, personal property takes.
Use your mic.
Right now, personal property taxes make up about 7, maybe 8 million in tax revenue. That's about evenly divided between commercial and manufacturing and other businesses and public utilities. I would not propose phasing out personal property tax for public utilities. So we're talking about eliminating maybe $4 million in revenue. Obviously, we can't take that big of a hit all at one time. However, state law allows us to phase it out. We can't change the rate, but we can change the percentage of assessable. So like right now, that table, if it was a private business, that table would be assessable at 100%. I would propose that we would phase it out over a series of years, maybe 5, maybe 10. And it would be budget driven. Obviously, as again, we can't take the hit now. As to how to make up the revenue, I think there $4 million in the county budget right now is a lot of money, but as we grow, as the economy picks up and we start to grow again, that's not that big a number. I also think we can look at some, there's some fees that I think could be adjusted. For example, we have a transfer fee, $10 for processing a deed. That's one of the very lowest anywhere in the county. That would certainly not make up the $4 million, but if we look at little things like that, I think, okay. So that's my drift. Thanks.
Anybody else at this table? No, at this table?
John Allred, Elton, Maryland. John Allred, Elton, Maryland. There we go. It's become painfully obvious over the last 2 years or so that the outcomes for the citizens of Cecil County are not served without consensus building and compromise. What attributes do both of you, this question is for both, what attributes do you bring that will enable you to do the consensus building and the compromise to get the outcomes we need for the citizens of Cecil County?
Just alternate.
Well, first of all, I've got a lot of experience in the county, and you know, going back 20 years, and I've seen a lot what works and what doesn't work. Again, I mentioned this in my opening statement. Although I'm registered Democrat, that's because in Cecil County you need to vote in the primary, so you have to pick one. And when I registered, there were no Republicans. But I am totally nonpartisan. People that know me know that I'm very analytical, but I don't come in with preconceived ideas. Additionally, I feel like I can get along with everybody. Back when we initiated tax billing for the towns, everybody said, "Pam, you're never going to make that work. You're never going to get all the towns to agree," and they were right. I only got 7 out of 8 of them to agree. But that program has worked very, very well for several years. Additionally, I think you could point to any of the, almost any of the agencies that I've worked with. I've worked with Maryland Association of Counties, and Maryland GFOA, some of the specialty groups, and that's all committee work and consensus building. And I think my reputation would speak for myself.
John, you bring up a point that I think everybody in this room is very well aware of. The last 2 years have been very difficult, and I'll be the first one to say. One of the things that I have tried to do in my responsibilities as a county commissioner is remember to leave it at the door. It's all about leadership. It's all about creating an atmosphere with other folks to say, you know what, you're part of a team. I have a lot of experience and excellence in building a team, not only at the chamber, but in other places, and especially throughout the community. What has to happen is people have to have respect, and quite frankly, it's all about relationships. It's about building those relationships with other people so that they know you, they respect you, they understand you. At the end of the day, the executive, however, is the one that makes the decision, unlike right now where we have 5 county commissioners with equal authority. I think the very nature of the fact that we're going to a charter government with one boss will make a big difference in terms of that. But that being said, we still need excellent leadership.
My name is Robert Porter. I live at Bear Hill. I'm sure that you both recognize that the council would be the body that passes legislation, and that you would need to enforce that legislation through the various departments of the county government. What, if anything, do you have on your mind as the first thing you would like to recommend to the council that they pass for you to initiate to improve the lot of our county citizens?
I'll be glad to take that one first, Mr. Porter. I've actually already been approached by some of the liquor stores in Cecil County. We have proposed a growler legislation. Unfortunately, as a commissioner form of government, we didn't have the authority and had to go through Annapolis to get that authority, and that bill never got passed. I don't even think it got brought up. That would be one of the first pieces of legislation that I would introduce to allow our businesses to create that avenue of business for their customers who would like to buy beer in a little bit bigger quantity. But you bring up a really good point. I think Pam and I have been both so busy with our jobs and the other things going on. I'm sure there'll be a lot of other opportunities for legislation, but that's the first one on my mind.
One of the first things on my mind would probably be unconstitutional, but I've told many people that I want to outlaw Cecil Tucky sweatshirts and t-shirts. I think it's an embarrassment to our county and they need to go. Other than that, I think we're going to be very, very much involved in trying to get our new charter up and running. That's going to be a lot of work in itself. I've already talked a little bit about the personal property tax. That's probably my pet peeve. And generally, I think less legislation is better. So unless it's legislation that we really, really need, I probably won't propose it. Thank you.
My name is Stephen England. I'm at 327 Bardstown Road. My question is for you, Pam. As treasurer, you dealt with issues that have impacted the treasurer's office, not necessarily the county's other departments that would be covered under the job of county executive. Have you been in regular attendance at the county meetings since you left the office of treasurer? And are you current with the issues that are currently facing the county, such as SB 236?
I think there's a lot of misconception about what the treasurer did. I was not just sitting in the office collecting taxes. I was involved with nearly every department in county government, plus the library, the Board of Education, and the college. I served on a lot of committees. I served on our public safety employees pension committee. I was involved in the group that recommended self-insurance for workers' compensation. Being essentially the chief financial officer, spread well beyond the 4 walls of the treasurer's office. With regards to attending county meetings, I'm working a full-time job, and unfortunately my time does not allow me to attend right now. I'm trying to fix my schedule so that in the last weeks before the election I will be able to attend, but we're also fortunate that we can listen to them online. We also have very good coverage in our papers. And frankly, I still have friends in Cecil County government, so I believe I'm probably as up to date as most of our citizens, if not a little better. Thank you.
My name is Tom Kenny, 220 Louisa Lane, Charlestown. Question is directed to Pam. During your introduction, you talked about your qualifications, and you said you have vast experience in legislation. Could you give us a specific example? Piece of legislation you were involved with, your role, and how it affected the citizens of Cecil County?
I don't know if I've used the word vast experience in legislation, but I do have experience in legislation. I have testified before committees of the General Assembly, particularly about tax laws. When the semi-annual tax law was proposed several years ago, I was in opposition to that. Most recently, and it was not popular with a lot of people, but most recently, there was legislation to lock the county into constant yield. I testified against that, and again, I know that was not a popular stand, but that was an issue that we definitely needed to address. It would have removed a serious tool from our financial management toolbox. I have helped draft legislation. I probably shouldn't admit it in the climate that we have right now, but I've worked a lot of years on Chapter 209. Ultimately, that work was thrown out, and we've gone down a new road. But you know, I have been involved in public safety pension plan, the legislation for that I was involved in. So I am familiar with the legislative side. Thank you.
Ed O'Connell. A lot of citizens of Cecil County are over 65, 72. I've retired 3 times. Is there any possibility that the county would consider a tax reduction for us old timers, say 5% of the tax bill on property tax? Give us a relief.
Before moving here, I also worked for county government. There were tax relief programs available based on a number of criteria. One happened to be age, another had to do with disability, another one had to do with if you had veteran status. I have seen programs that work, that give a little bit of relief to people, and I'm more than willing to look at that. That the challenge is that wherever we reduce taxes, we have to increase them for other people, and you clearly understand that. But I would be open to looking at that, yes.
Again, that sounds like a good idea, but as Terry said, the reality is if you decrease taxes for one group, you have to increase them for another group. There are a lot of our senior citizens struggling, and there are programs available. We have the homeowner tax credit. There's the homestead credit, which applies to everybody if your assessments increase. But the homeowner tax credit is a really, really good program. A lot of our senior citizens can take advantage of that. And quite frankly, in this economy, I've often wondered, there are seniors that are struggling, but frankly there are seniors that are very well off, and their houses are paid for, and they have good retirements, and they can afford to pay their taxes. And there's a lot of young people that can't. So I don't think that I would support an age-only tax credit or tax reduction.
So Brian Shively from Calvert again. I keep coming back to the macro issues. It has a lot to do with what I read, but if you look at what's happening nationally, and even the state of Maryland today, a lot of the issues are becoming fiscally and money driven because of the economy, because of lack of revenues and other reasons. The sense is, I think, from a lot of us here in the county, the same thing's going to happen here, that whether we have to go into some kind of mode to drive revenues or whether we have to deal with fall down from the federal and state government, it's going to be tough fiscal times. So question for both candidates, can you talk about your experience and your abilities to handle what I think is really going to be a fiscal term for the next county executive?
Well, I came to county service in 1991, working for the treasurer, and at that time we were in a bad economic slump. Certainly not as bad as we're seeing today, but back then we thought it was pretty bad. The county was forced to do furloughs and a lot of budget reductions. So I do have some experience there with what works and what doesn't. Additionally, I am familiar enough with the county that I believe there's some areas where we can still do some tweaking, still maybe find some efficiencies. But again, I'm so comfortable with the county budget and how the departments work that I think I can squeeze the turnip as good as we can squeeze it. Thank you.
It's a great question and a very, very difficult one. This past year, what we dealt with as commissioners is a decreasing assessment base, and you all know that because your property values have gone down. So we had $10 million off the top from the previous fiscal year that we had to cut just to be what we were last year. In addition, the state passed on the teachers' pensions, plus an administrative fee, and that ended up being a little over $3 million in unexpected expenditures. And that will increase as time goes on. At the same time, we have lost 90% of our state highway user funds. These are taxes you guys pay at the pump, gas pump, that go to the state and are supposed to be given back to the counties in Maryland to take care of the roads and the highways. We've lost 90% of those. We will see an increasing track record, I think, from the state in deferring expenses to us. It's not going to get better. What we have to do is we have to look at some ways to dealing with this. One of my ideas is we need to work on making sure that we create more jobs in our community. When we have more jobs in our community, we're creating and increasing our commercial and our industrial base, and that helps offset all of our tax burdens. That's a very critical thing, and my idea of how to do that is that we have lottery revenues, and so this won't take any taxpayers' dollars. We already have lottery revenues, and what I'd like to do is set aside from those lottery revenues and create create a position called business development. I'm not sure what the name of it would be, whose focus is on increasing jobs in the community. In other words, bringing businesses here and helping the businesses that are here develop.
Short answer is I would vote for the most recent map. I believe it's map 8, the revised map. We have a very good comprehensive plan. A lot of people spent a lot of time developing that document, and it was went through the channels and was duly approved by our citizens. I think we need to follow that as much as possible. That being said, there is some areas that are open to interpretation depending on which map you look at in the comprehensive plan. And I think the most recent map that was produced recognizes that there is pre-existing development and there's already subdivisions that are approved, like between Port Deposit and Rising Sun. You can look at the map and it looks all nice and green and pretty, but get in your car and go out and drive around, and there are areas that are designated as green that are, we have to admit, are already fairly developed. So I think people have to have a place to live, and I think it only makes sense, since those areas are fairly developed already, to move them up to the Tier 3 plan. Thank you.
Tari, can I ask you to follow up on that, answer that same question as well?
Sure.
We talked about SB 236.
I'd be glad to. Unfortunately, map 8, and I haven't had a chance to really take a close look at it because I actually only received it Sunday evening. And map 8 was supposed to be the map that the Planning Commission put together and made a recommendation to the commissioners, because the Planning Commission disagreed with the commissioners' the 3-2 vote map that went forward before the public hearing. Unfortunately, we didn't get a consensus from our Planning Commission on map 8. At our public hearing the other night, there were some very, very good suggestions there. This is state law. We can choose not to comply, but the consequences of that choice are something that are not acceptable. They basically would shut us down in terms of permits in the future. What I would recommend is that we start with, and somebody made a suggestion Tuesday night, we take a look at all of our preserved lands in Cecil County right now, all of our rural legacy areas, all of our areas on our farms that have already put into preservation, and start with that map as the very minimum. Those are landowners who have already said, this is what we want to put our land into preservation. Let's start there.
Should go around. We're running out of time.
My name is Sharon Wiegand, and I know we're in fiscal time where revenue is hard. We get a lot of state mandates. I work for a municipality, so I understand all that. However, my question is a little bit different. I'd like to know how you're going to improve the low morale of the county employees. How could you address that?
I addressed this a little bit earlier because I really believe, Sharon, that it's all about leadership. Our employees need to understand, and they need to understand and respect who their leaders are. And when that happens, I think there is going to be a transformation, and I agree with you that I'm worried about the morale. I walk the steps, I walk the hallways in here, and I hear people who are concerned. You can feel it in the building. That has to change, and I'm very committed to doing it. I've also got a lot of experience at building teams, and teams that enjoy working together, but more importantly, do what's best for the whole. That look at, while I was at the chamber, we were always looking for ways that we can improve the services to our clients, which were our business members, our members of the chamber, and ways that we can improve services to them to give them more value for their membership. And I'm really good at that.
Good question, Sharon, and it's always a challenge to motivate employees. But I think part of what we're seeing now, in part it's related to pay. The employees haven't had a pay, well, they had a small pay raise this year, but in general the employees haven't had a pay raise in several years. But having been with the county so long, one thing that you see over time is that a lot of times budgets seem to be balanced on the county employees' pay scales. The teachers have a union and they get regular raises. Our public safety employees generally get regular raises. So it is bad for employees' morale when they see these other groups getting raises and they don't. But I think probably more importantly, and what I'm hearing is that the county employees, a lot of the county employees don't feel that they're appreciated. And that is a morale buster. Try to put yourself in the county employees' place. They are in the spotlight all the time. Probably for every positive comment that is said about a public county employee, they hear 10 or 20 negative comments. Also, frankly, it doesn't help when they have 5 bosses. The beauty, I think, of charter government is that they will have a county executive. They will have 1 boss. And I believe, I supervised 19 people in the treasurer's office, and I believe we had a very good team spirit and a very good working environment. I will foster that in county government. That's not to say it's going to be all fun and games. I will hold people accountable to be sure that they do what they're supposed to do, but on the other hand, I will praise and reward those that do their jobs. Thank you.
Okay, unfortunately we're out of time for questions, but we'd like to give each candidate 2 minutes for a closing statement, and I just want to remind everybody that, again, this will be on the website within the next couple of days. All right. Pam, you want to go?
Again, I'd like to thank the Patriots for holding this event. I've been to several of your forums now over the years, and you do have a very good format conducive to a lot of interesting discussion. The county executive will make decisions on behalf of all of our citizens, She will have to work with council and other entities to foster a spirit of teamwork and cooperation and consensus. Over the past 20 years, I've demonstrated this skill in many ways. I approach problems with an unbiased, open mind and make decisions based on fact and not emotion. I serve no special interest group and am able to work with and relate to people from all walks of life. I have the most experience here in Cecil County and a proven track record. Isn't that what you want in a county executive? Thank you.
I also do want to thank the Patriots and all of you for being here tonight, taking time out of your busy schedules. You've heard a lot this evening, but I'd like to share with you in closing that I feel like that I am uniquely qualified. It's interesting that Pam used that phrase as well. But I do feel that I am uniquely qualified for the position of county executive because I'm already tried, tested, and trusted. I've proven that I'm a leader with honesty and integrity. I've proven that I can handle disappointment, discouragement, and extreme frustration with dignity, and always keeping one thing in mind, that I must continue doing the best thing for the people of Cecil County. I've proven to be an elected official who researches the issues and makes informed decisions. We may not always agree, but you know I've done my homework and that I've listened to you. In the many controversial issues we've had over the last 2 years, you know I've worked hard to find solutions to create more jobs, fight our drug problem, and protect our property rights. I'm proven someone that you can have confidence in. I've been trusted to serve on many boards and commissions, including the Maryland Association of Counties, where I'm counted on to represent the views of Cecil County as we work toward issues in Annapolis that cross political and geographical boundaries. It's been my honor to serve you the past 2 years. I ask for your support and your vote as county executive. Thank you.
Okay, that'll conclude our evening. I just want to thank everybody for coming, and we have to be out of here at 9, so if you want to talk, go out and talk.